What's been the key to the Flames' 4-game winning streak, and does it change their trade deadline plans? Hey everyone, welcome into Burning Questions. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Postmedia Calgary Flames writers Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin. And guys, 4 games in a row the Flames have won, and that has put them back into wildcard contention. Wes, how have they done it?
Well, I think importantly is who they've done it against, and that is 4 of teams that have been described at different points this season as contenders. 4 in a row against the Winnipeg Jets, the Boston Bruins, the Edmonton Oilers, and most recently the Los Angeles Kings. It's been sort of the, I guess, quintessential team effort. What we've learned about this Flames team is they can't count on just one player to carry them to victory. Although Jacob Markstrom tries quite often, it's going to take kind of one of those full group efforts to beat especially the good teams. If they have any passengers, it just doesn't work for this Flames squad. And so I think they deserve a lot of credit for the fact that they know everyone's writing them off. They know everyone's counting them out. They know everyone expects them, especially after the trade deadline, to plummet out of the playoff picture, but they're quietly playing their best hockey of the season. Ryan Huska said as much last night. Other players have said, yeah, this is the best hockey we've played so far in 23-24. And no matter where it goes from here, I think it is encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, the Flames would say it's about consistency and getting after it, but I'm going to try to give a slightly different answer. Before I do, though, I do think it needs to be noted. I mean, this team has been streaky. They've won 3-4 in a row and then lost 3-4 in a row sort of over and over again for the past couple months. So hopefully we're not having a completely different discussion next week, although with the trade deadline coming up, I think there's going to be lots of other things to talk about. But I will say that I'm actually writing about this now, and one thing that I think has been really impressive is the play of Blake Coleman, Nazem Kadri, Jonathan Huberdeau, who we're going to get to, Michael Backlund. It's been the veterans on this team who in key moments I feel like have really risen up and stepped up their game and come up big. And that's so important because we've talked so much about the Connors Ayers and Martin Pospicils and what these young players are contributing. But right now, those veterans who you rely on to use their know-how and their experience to sort of carry you through the tough moments are absolutely rising to the occasion.
So when you look at this 4-game winning streak, Danny, I think a lot of people are wondering, does it change the thinking of Craig Conroy heading into the trade deadline? You're already shaking your head, so I feel like I know what your answer is going to be. But what do you think, if anything, that this recent win streak does for him?
I mean, it does not change anything as far as the futures of Noah Hanifin and Chris Tanev. If those guys have not signed on the dotted line, really by yesterday, and I'm just using yesterday as a vague term, but I think if it's not done, then you're trading them. And I don't think that you can afford to risk losing either of those guys for nothing. I think it's pretty clear, particularly with Noah Hanifin, that if he hasn't signed, he's not going to. So you got to flip him. And that stinks, and that's hard. And, to look guys like Coleman and Kadri in the eye who signed here when this team was supposed to be a contender and say, despite all your efforts, we're still pulling the rug from under you a little bit is difficult, but that's why Craig Conroy gets paid the big bucks. It's a tough job.
Danny mentioned how streaky this group has been. It was a few weeks ago we were talking about how they couldn't beat the Chicago Blackhawks or how they couldn't get a win at home. And so, absolutely not. This can't change Craig Conroy's approach to the deadline, especially as it pertains to the risk of losing 2 very valuable players in Hanifin and Tanev, who can walk as unrestricted free agents this summer. So, is the 4-game winning streak impressive? Absolutely. Has it sort of made a statement to the rest of the league about what these Flames as currently constructed can do? Yeah, I think so. But, someone suggested today at the rink, hey, maybe they could try to buy some players at the deadline. And I can't say whiplash. I'll say upper body injury, but I'm going to be out for a few days because they can't go down that road. They simply can't. They've committed to a retool, and 4 impressive wins aside, you have to see it through.
All right. Well, one guy that's going to be here for the retool is Jonathan Huberdeau, and we know the old saying, new year, new me, but maybe it's new year, old me when it comes to Huberdeau. West, 21 points in his last 22 games. Are we finally seeing the guy that the Flames hoped they'd be getting when they picked him up?
It's certainly a lot closer to it. And, I think there's been a variety of moments through a season and a half with the Flames where Jonathan Huberdeau would have a really good game or maybe 2 in a row, and you'd think, okay, geez, is this it, as he finally turned the corner. And so the fact that he's been essentially a point per game player for the past 2 months now, you go back to New Year's Eve, it's a big deal for these Flames. And he's creative out there. He has some confidence in his passes. The pass he made on Saturday night in the Battle of Alberta, saucer pass past 2 defensemen to find Dryden Hunt for what was the game-winning goal. Like that sort of, I guess, vintage Huberdeau in some sense. He's never going to be a 115-point player like he was with the Florida Panthers. And if you're going to measure him just against his paychecks, $10.5 million a year, you're probably going to be underwhelmed. But if he can be a point per game guy for this team, especially knowing their scoring by committee approach, like the fact that they need everybody on board, it would be big. Like that, if they can get 80 points a season out of Jonathan Huberdeau for the next several, it would really mean a lot.
Yeah, and this may not matter to people other than sort of sports writers, but the thing with Huberdeau is I think that people are rooting for him because he never hid from taking accountability. When things were going really, really terribly, he still walked up there. He still understood that he had to speak and take accountability. And everything you heard from everyone around the Flames, and like not just on camera, was that he was working so hard. So I genuinely think that, it's a bit of a good news story, and it's something that everyone in Calgary, forget the $10.5 million paycheck. As Wes said, if that's just sort of, if that hangs over him, it hangs over him. There's nothing that can be done about that. But this is a player who has largely been a credit to himself and to the organization with the work that he's put in, with the public approach that he has taken to his struggles. So I do think that it's become something that is light in the mood and has been inspiring is too strong a word, but I don't have a thesaurus in front of me. A lesser version of the word inspiring, for sure.
You just got to turn behind you. Yeah,
I was going to say all those books. There's got to be a thesaurus in there somewhere.
There's a Canadian Press style guide.
Is that just wallpaper or are those actual books?
I mean, it's actual books, yeah.
Well, it's been a fun story, to say the least, when it comes to Jonathan Huberdeau, and there's going to be a lot of stories when it comes to the Flames over the next 10 days or so with the trade deadline coming up. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time on another Burning Questions.